Greetings, I'm Neon Slice, and today I'm gonna be ranking all Resident Evil games that I have played in 2026. I've recently replayed the entire franchise, so my opinion from my previous ranking tier list may have changed. So today I'm going to be going in depth, in detail, over every single Resident Evil game that I've played, and I will be giving you my own personal opinion. This is the updated 2026 tier list, including Resident Evil Requiem at the very end. So please don't skip through the video, because I will be listing every single thing that I can think of that I like or that I dislike about this franchise. Let's get started. Alright, let's start with my very first Resident Evil game, and that is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I will be putting this on A. The reason for that is because I absolutely love Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, but I don't think it's the best. I started when I was 6 years old playing this game. I really liked the soundtrack, the music is amazing, the level design is beautiful. I really like that old PS1 vibe of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So in terms of art design, I think is a wonderful game, amazing. In terms of gameplay, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is one of the most unique ones because it has something that other Resident Evil games don't have, and that is the ability to let you choose in certain situations what to do. So I really like that. I love how unique the game is, and I wish the remake did a better job at conveying that. But overall, voice acting is great, level design is absolutely amazing, weapons are awesome. I absolutely love the freeze rounds. My god, I'm so sad that they didn't bring them back in the remake. The freeze rounds were so good. If you haven't played this game, go play it. I love the introduction of the gunpowder machine thingy, you know, the reloader or whatever it is. I love that they focused on that sort of thing, you know, the gunpowder, messing about with the gunpowder. You know, I like the random weapon locker that you get, either a magnum or a grenade launcher. You know, I like that sort of thing. You know, it makes it replayable, right? I wish they had brought back the mercenaries in the remake. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. So, next up we have Resident Evil 2. I think Resident Evil 2 is one of the greatest games of all time, the original game. It is one of my favorites. I think it is the best of the trilogy, the original classic trilogy. It did everything that Resident Evil 1 had done, but better. The art design, much like Resident Evil 3, it's absolutely outstanding. I love the alleyways, I love the police station, probably the most iconic survival horror location of all time, the police station, Raccoon City. Very memorable setting, very memorable characters, very memorable music. Absolutely amazing storytelling. I put it on S+. Speaking of classics, Resident Evil 1, I'll put it on A because it's personal opinion. I think Resident Evil 1 is the quintessential experience of Resident Evil, but it's not perfect, right? It could be better. It's like the beta of all these games, right? But if you want to know what Resident Evil is about as a game, you have to play the OG Resident Evil 1. Comparing it to the other ones, which is what we're doing right now, I think it gets an A for me personally, because I prefer the remake. The original Resident Evil 1 had terrible voice acting, but with time people grew to love it, myself included. It is really funny, very quirky, random, and the music is absolutely amazing. Probably the absolute best music in the franchise comes from Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 1 Remake. So I'm putting Resident Evil 1 Remake on S+, on the highest rank, because I think it is the single best Resident Evil classic experience when it comes to horror. Because let's be honest, although RE2 focused, it was a little bit more slower paced than RE3, it was still kind of actiony, right? Because every room that you would go in would have an enemy, right? So you either ran past, or you're always on the go and stuff like that. That is kind of an action game with a survival horror setting, right? So whereas Resident Evil 1 Remake is similar to that, but I think it does a better job in focusing on the horror aspects. Perhaps it was the amazing setting, the beautiful pre-render backgrounds, the fixed camera angles, the lack of ammo, and of course, I'm talking about from a new player perspective. Of course, now that I know the game, I know that you can finish it with a knife or using 24 shotgun shells, right? So, but it is the quintessential best experience for Resident Evil in the modern day. Moving on with the classics. Resident Evil Code Veronica. Now, Resident Evil Code Veronica, I'm putting it on B. I'm really sorry for you fans of Resident Evil Code Veronica. I love the story, okay? I love the setting, love the story, love the mansion, love, you know, the lore. I really like the lore of Code Veronica. Reading the files, it is unmatched when it comes to storytelling. I think it is one of the deepest Resident Evil games. The characters, a lot of people like to make fun of Steve. Oh, he sounds funny, or he says dumb stuff all the time, he's annoying, blah blah blah. Steve is a tragic character with a tragic background, and he tries to mask it, at least that's how I interpreted it, with quirkiness, you know, funny things that he says. He's an emotional kid, right? So I relate to that a little bit, maybe because I understand his character. That's probably why I understand, you know, I sympathize with him a little bit more. But yeah, Alfred Ashford has one of the most interesting backgrounds in the franchise. Really interested to see the remake. The depth of the storytelling in the game is absolutely amazing. I wish they would go deeper in exploring the story of Steve and Alfred Ashford, Alexia. You know, there's a lot of potential there with the remake. But why am I putting it on B? Because I played the European version and the game itself is just not great. Let's talk about ranking systems. This game features a ranking system that is unknown to the player to this day. The player has to kind of guess how the ranking system works. For example, people theorize that you have to get about 200 points, I think, or 150 hidden points, and certain actions determine how many points you gain or lose. For example, using a first aid spray makes you lose 100 points or something like that. Saving the game makes you lose another 10 points or something like that. You know what I mean? Like healing, stuff like that. It's just annoying, you know. I don't want to have to worry about an unknown pointing system when I'm playing, going for the A ranking, right, to unlock everything. It's just a bit of a chore. If there was a visual representation of of that point system within the game, then it would be a different story. You know, I would know and learn it and, you know, try to adapt around this. But to this day, we don't know. People have theorized that you have to beat the game in under 3 hours without healing, by delivering the hemostatic medicine to Rodrigo and stuff like that. It's just very tedious, right? They figured that out, but it's still very tedious. In my personal opinion, it's very anti-consumer. Alright, moving on. The next one is gonna be Resident Evil 0. Now I'm gonna put Resident Evil 0 on C. I'm really sorry. This is personal preference. I think Resident Evil 0 looks amazing. The pre-render backgrounds are beautiful. The characters are amazing. They look good and they sound good. Every single person that did voice acting in this game is wonderful. Same thing applies to Code Veronica, by the way. I love Steve, Alfred, Alexia, Wesker, Chris, Claire. They're all great. The character designs, immaculate. I love Claire Redfield in Code Veronica. She's beautiful. She's my favorite. But the game itself has a lot more potential. Anyway, when it comes to 0, I really like the game. The art design, the level design is beautiful. But the thing that I can't get my head around is the gameplay. I'm not a fan of the single player co-op, that having to control 2 characters. I hope they fix that in a possible remake. Same thing goes with Resident Evil Survivor here. So I actually quite like Resident Evil Survivor. I don't think it's a bad game, but of course the other ones are better. It's the C. Okay, listen, it's a C. It's a generous C. There we go. Just because I think Code Veronica is better than that. My god, you guys are gonna eat me alive in the comments. Anyway, moving on to more classics. We'll do the remakes and the new games very soon. Alright, the classics. Resident Evil 4. I think I'll put Resident Evil 4 on A because it's a generous A, I think. I think Resident Evil 4 is probably one of the most important games in the franchise. It definitely pushed the game forward. Although the original trilogy of Resident Evil has become iconic in this current day and age, I think what really put Resident Evil on the map was Resident Evil 4. It introduced the franchise to a brand new audience and it popularized it. And I think it deserves that credit. And it's a really good game to play, but in my opinion, it's not the best Resident Evil game of all time. And I know you will disagree, and I know you will probably insult me in the comments, but I think it's a generous A. I like the music. It's great. I like the setting. It's pretty interesting. I really like the castle. The gameplay is absolutely fun. It's so replayable. It was obvious, you know, how to unlock things. It would tell you, you know, you would just play the game. At the end, it would tell you how to unlock it, or you unlock the thing, you know. It was very organic, very user-friendly. You would complete the mercenaries, like it would give you a ranking system at the end. So you would use your brain and be like, oh, what if I get something for getting 5 stars on all the levels, or 6 stars, or whatever. So that was a step forward from Code Veronica, which had a hidden point system. I know the other ones did as well, but you know what I mean. It was very user-friendly. It was a great game. My biggest problem with RE4 is that it was an action game. And by the time I played RE4, I had already played Code Veronica, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3. So for me, Resident Evil was a slow-paced survival horror game where you would struggle with ammunition, you get scared every once in a while, there's a little, you know, there's a monster every once in a while that follows you around. You know, that's what Resident Evil was for me. When I played RE4, I was confused as to why Leon was all of a sudden misogynistic, low-key disrespectful, and just tried to act completely different than the Leon that I knew. I know a lot of you guys are about to say, oh, but that's because he had experience now. He wasn't a rookie anymore and he's meant to be a badass dude, action hero guy. I think it's a misrepresentation of Leon. I don't think Leon from RE2, after he witnessed the death of Ada, the most traumatizing first day on his job, would then turn into a misogynistic prick. You know, don't get me wrong, he's really funny, but I think it was a misrepresentation of his character, and I'm glad that the remake did him justice. I'm just gonna put RE6 in D. Listen, it's my personal preference. I don't think RE6 is a terrible game. I think it's worse. No, I'm just kidding. It's fun. It's fun to play with a friend. It's tons of laughs. Like it's really funny. That's the thing. This game is funny. That's what saves it. A lot of you guys will probably say this is the game that has the most weapons, the most action, and it deserves to be at the S+ or A+. That's okay, you can think that, but like I said, for me, Resident Evil was a slow-paced, methodical, you know, slow-paced survival horror game with characters with depth. You would find files that tell you the story. You know, you would slowly progress the story with reading files, interacting with things. RE6 just felt like it lacked substance. It lacked that depth that I loved about the game, the immersion. Everything that made the game unique was traded for action. Don't roast me in the comments. Anyway, I'm gonna put Revelations 1 and 2 on the same level. There's not much to say. Resident Evil 1 and 2 Revelations, they are a lot of people praised them at the time for being the return to survival horror after RE6. People were saying Resident Evil is finally back to slow-paced, you know, over-the-shoulder survival horror. And yeah, it was kind of true, but it was actually inspired by Resident Evil 5's DLC. If you guys have played Lost in Nightmares, Revelations is literally Lost in Nightmares, but with different characters, right? So I'll put it on B because it's not perfect. These games are not perfect, but they're really fun to play on the first playthrough. I'm just not a huge fan of the story. I'm not a huge fan of the characterization of Claire in Revelations 2. It's necessarily a bad thing, but I'm more of a, you know, the great things is in the details type of guy. So that's why I'll put these on B. Alright, now that I've ranted for 25 minutes, let's talk about RE5. Same thing goes with RE5. I think it's a great co-op game, one of the best if you ask me. It is not the worst, but not the best. I think it's a complete different experience than everything that I had experienced at the time. I prefer survival horror, so I'll put it on B. I don't like the level design. I think it's very green, but I like Sheva and I like the characters. I was wondering why Chris was huge when I first played it, and his character also changed a little bit from RE1, but that's to be expected. He was like, you know, much older, so I hope it gets remade. It's a good action game, but there's nothing survival horror about RE5 in my opinion, so I'll put it on B because it's a great co-op game and it gets that. Alright, okay, I'll put Revelations 1 and 2 on C because they're not objectively bad games, but they could be better and they were fun to play. That's how I feel about these three right here. Whereas Resident Evil 0, I feel like it was a beautiful game, but it wasn't fun to play. You know what I mean? Anyway, so RE5's good co-op game, it stays on B. Resident Evil 7, I'll put it on quality. Alright, moving on. RE Village, I think, you know what? I actually think RE Village is a good game. I like RE Village. I think RE Village is a good sequel to Ethan's story, and it's a good love letter to those who love RE4. It's very similar to RE4. If you pay attention, it has the castle, it has, you know, the Lago boss fight, you know, it's very similar. The merchant is back, it's the same thing as RE4 almost. The only problem I have with Resident Evil Village is that Village of Shadows difficulty was obviously created with NG Plus in mind or with infinite ammo in mind. So yeah. Alright, so let's go over to the remakes. So the remakes, Resident Evil 2 Remake for me is my favorite game in the series. Right next to the OG RE2. I think this is how every Resident Evil game should be nowadays, a survival horror experience. I love the weapon parts. I don't like the merchant that much. I prefer finding parts to attach to my weapon, so I love that about RE2 Remake. I think it's also a very faithful remake to the original game. It also took a lot of original RE1 Remake gameplay features and implemented it into its own game. Like the defense items return, like the knife, you use it as a defense item if you have it, you know. So you can tell the developers looked at OG RE1 Remake and modernized that formula and made a wonderful remake of RE2. So Resident Evil 3, I will put this on C because it goes to the tier of it's not bad, but it could be better, you know. It's not very faithful to the original. The only thing I really love about this game is Nightmare Mode. I love the idea of the introduction of a mode that changes item locations, puzzle solutions. I think every Resident Evil game needs a Nightmare Mode. You know, a harder difficulty that isn't impossible, but it swaps items. You know, sort of like Insanity, RE9, but not impossible, right? So I like Nightmare Mode. Moving on, we have RE4 Remake. I think RE4 Remake is another example of Capcom being absolutely amazing with the remakes. The RE2 Remake team returns in RE4 Remake, and they developed one of the best Resident Evil games of all time, and that's RE4 Remake. It is probably the best depiction of survival action horror game. If you want to get into this, the franchise, RE2 and RE4 are the best remakes to try. I think they did a wonderful, amazing job. They absolutely made the original game even better. I love Leon in this game. I love Ashley in this game. I love Luis in this game. I love Wesker. I love Ada. Every single character in this game has received a massive improvement from their original counterparts. I know you disagree. I know you're going off to the comment section to type how wrong I am, but all of these characters have depth now, and they all have really good depictions with their voice actors. So I really like that Leon isn't a jerk anymore, and he has a really good, relatable, and you get to understand his character more, and it helps that Nick Apostolides, the voice actor, knows the franchise, knows the character, and it shows. It really shows in his performance. I like that Ashley is not a stereotype anymore. I like that she's not super annoying anymore, like everyone would say from the original game. They fixed her AI. She still gets grabbed, but that's part of the game. She literally exists for that reason, to be an obstacle for the player, for you to adapt to the fact that you're escorting an NPC. So yeah, I love the merchant, the music, the setting, the graphic, the level design, the character design, the voice acting. It's a great remake. The story is wonderful. Although people hate Ada, I like the new Ada. Could be better, of course, but that applies to everything, I think. But yeah, there's not much to say other than that. And now for the grand finale, we have Resident Evil Requiem. Where do I put Resident Evil Requiem? Where do I put Resident Evil Requiem? Drum roll, please. I put Resident Evil Requiem right here. Right there. Yes, I think Resident Evil Requiem has amazing graphics, amazing voice acting, amazing character design, amazing, did I say voice acting? Amazing story. I like the story. I actually do like the story. It has a great story. It's a bit confusing when it comes to Grace, but we'll get to that. And the only problem I have with Resident Evil Requiem is that it advertises itself as a return to form to the survival horror genre, but in reality, it's two games put in one. It's like two demos of a game put in one, if you think about it. It's a tech demo of Resident Evil 7 and 2 Remake, combined with a tech demo of RE4. That's how this game feels. That's why I'm not putting it on S+. I think the voice actors are amazing. I love Grace's actor. I love that Angela Santalbano, although she's British, she has Italian family. At least we have Italian representation in Resident Evil finally, in some way. As an Italian myself, I love that, one of the main characters is of Italian descent, at least. And I think, although everyone thinks her stuttering is annoying, I don't think it's annoying. I like her. She's beautiful, and I like that she's scared at the beginning, but she becomes more confident by the end. She protects Emily. I absolutely love her relationship with Emily. The fact that Grace, I like that she had to care for someone else. And then in the end, spoiler alert, when they both survive and she adopts her, and it's beautiful. I love that, actually. I love a good ending like that. When it comes to Leon, I like that Leon again is being represented by one of the most amazing actors currently in the industry. Nick Apostolides returns. He does a wonderful Leon. Leon's back. In terms of gameplay, Grace's sections, before we move on to Leon, I liked them a lot. I actually enjoy Grace's sections more than Leon's. I like that it's RE2 basically. The only thing I hated was insanity difficulty, because once again Capcom wants you to use infinite ammo for the hardest difficulty, and I wish they didn't do that with Requiem. But yeah, I like the survival horror aspects of RE2 of RE9. I think it would have been better if it was just Grace Ashcroft. No hate for Leon. Realistically speaking, this game wouldn't have worked without Leon because of the way the story was going to go. The story was set up as a return to Raccoon City, so they had to have a legacy character returning to Raccoon City, and Leon just made logical sense to bring back for this occasion. And that, unfortunately, forces the developers to make the game an action-oriented game, which, it's understanding. I don't mind it too much. I think the game is good, but it didn't feel like it was groundbreaking. I hope you understand what I mean by that. There's nothing wrong with the game itself. It's other than being nitpicky, like, insanity difficulty being a little bit very, a little bit too crazy, too insane, without infinite ammo, that is. But yeah, it just felt like it was RE2 7 combined with RE4, and nothing really, groundbreaking happened in terms of gameplay mechanics. It was really cool to have the finishers. I really, really like that. It's very, adrenaline pumping, so playing with Leon makes you really feel like a badass. I just wasn't a huge fan of the detonator part. It got me stuck like for 3 hours there, but that may be my skill issue. I wish they didn't have shooting enemies, zombies with machine guns and explosives and mortars and stuff like that, but I'm glad that they didn't spam that. It was just a couple of sections. It was okay. That's why I'm not putting it on S+, because the game there's nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't groundbreaking, that's all. I really like the survival horror parts, and I can't wait to see what Capcom does next. I'm sure they'll use this as as experience for the next game. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Now, to end this video, I will show you a fake picture, because I know that a lot of people just skip ahead in the video to see the tier list. So to troll these people, I will put up a fake list right here. Anyway, that is my tier list. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.